everybody, it's Judy Klock, your independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator here in Middletown, Virginia, coming to you today with another tutorial for, let's wait for it, Christmas cards. I know if you're anything like me, you've procrastinated just a bit and you still need a few cards. Well, I'm here to show you a really quick and easy card. Actually, well, one's really quick and easy because you can make them in a matter of minutes, and one will take a little bit more time because it involves some coloring. I have Trooper, my chocolate lab, in here with me downstairs today. He's helping me. And I've got my Santa toppers from Pear Eyewear on my glasses today to get into the festive season. All right, you ready? Let me go ahead and switch my cameras and show you what we're going to be working on today. Bear with me while I figure out what I'm doing because I can never remember. There's one, and we're going to hide this one. All right, you're going to hide me for now, and you're going to see my desk. There we go. So we are ready to work. So this one is so quick and so simple. It uses the beautiful A Child is Born stamp set. And I love this stamp set because it's what I call like line art. It's just very simple images that you can leave as is or color. And on this first card, we're just going to use them as is. I stamped it with some pecan pie on very vanilla. And then I've torn the edges to kind of give it that old-timey look. And then I've lightly gone over the edges with a blending brush and some pecan pie ink. So that is card number one. This is another version of it, just using the same techniques, okay, but just some different stamps from that stamp set. And then the next one that we're going to work on is coloring it in. And I'm going to quickly show you three different ways. This one, believe it or not, was done using our soft pastels. So that's one way to do it. I'm going to show you how to use the Versamark ink pad to kind of get that glowing star effect. Then I'm just going to quickly show you, this is using our watercolor pencils and blender pens. And these are all the same colors. This is Coastal Cabana, Night of Navy, and Gorgeous Grape. For this one, I had to combine, we didn't have like a brown pastel, so I combined, believe it or not, Poppy Parade and Mossy Meadow to kind of give you that brownish auburn hair look. For this one, I just used the pecan pie. This was done using our blends. Now, for our blends, we don't have a Coastal Cabana blend, and we don't have a Gorgeous Grape blend. So I used Pool Party and Blackberry Bliss. Same Daffodil Delight and Pecan Pie. And then I used one using our water painters and our inks. Now this is Coastal Cabana, Night of Navy, Gorgeous Grape, Daffodil Delight, and Pecan Pie. So you can see the colors, because I didn't use that much water, are very saturated and very rich and very, very deep. They are much lighter here with the blends, and with the pencils, again, you can go as light or as dark, and they're very light with the pastels. I've also gone over this with the Wink of Stella so that once it's on there, the pastel won't smudge. We'll have that sort of Wink of Stella on the pastel coloring protecting it. So let's go ahead and get started. So for our first card, we're just going to use a Secret Sea base. I had thought about doing Night of Navy, and then I thought, I think Secret Sea might really look better. So for the inside, I'm going to stamp, but I'm just going to use one stamp pad. I'm using Pecan Pie for everything. I've got a lovely little sentiment here somewhere that says, "May the spirit of the season bring you hope, happiness, and love." So that was from the Child is Born stamp set. And then I wanted to add a Merry Christmas. So I went to the Jolly Holly and I picked out the Merry and Christmas. They're two separate stamps. I lined them up, and I'm just going to put them here and stamp them right under there. Okay, so that is, I'm going to put that off to the side for a minute. That is our inside. So let me go ahead and add this to the inside of our card base. I like to sometimes get some of the pieces off my desk and out of the way. So now that we've got that, now we've got here This is a piece of Very Vanilla. The first piece was 5 1/4 by 4. This is 4 3/4 by, no, sorry, 5 by 3 3/4, 5 by 3 3/4. And we are going to ink up the Mary, Joseph, and a baby stamp. And when my stamp is larger than my ink pad, I like to put my stamp up and then just tap my ink pad on my stamp. It just seems to work better when you have a very large stamp. Okay, now I'm going to close that up. We'll use that again in a minute, but I don't need that right this minute. So let me close that up. I'm going to stamp here with my Madonna and Joseph. Okay, and then I'm going to also stamp the stars in the corner. No, I'm not going to stamp the stars in the corner on this one. I am going to stamp Oh Holy Night. Maybe I will stamp the stars in the corner. Why not? Let's try it. Let's try it and see what happens. But I have to stamp it a little bit further down. So I want to make sure that I have room to tear the edge of my paper. Okay, and I'm going to put my Oh Holy Night right there. Now, I want to make sure that while I'm tearing my edge, I have the design facing me and I want to tear towards me. So I'm just going to tear my edges. You can tear as much or as little as you want because this is pretty small. I'm not going to be tearing a very big border. I'm just going to be tearing it a little bit. I want to make sure I don't tear my stamped image. That would be defeating the whole purpose. Okay. Again, I'm just going to keep pulling it towards me. Okay. And we've got our last one here. Pulling this up. Now, to get that old-timey look, I'm going to keep going a little bit more. I've got to tear all my edges. Okay, I've got to blend. I'm going to bring in a blending brush. I'm going to bring back my pecan pie. I'm going to ink up my blending brush. I'm going to start off the paper. I don't want it very dark, so I'm just going to kind of go along the edges. Okay, and add as much. You can go in as far, as much towards the stamped image as you want, but I'm really just trying to get to the edges. And I'm just going to go all around the edge of my paper. We're just going to kind of make it look a little bit old, a little bit more like maybe parchment paper. We're just kind of aging it. So that's it. That's all we're going to do. Now, if you want to like sort of curl those corners, take your bone folder and just kind of do that with the bone folder to kind of, it kind of helps break up some of the paper fibers. Crinkle it a little bit, kind of makes the edges look a little bit more worn and torn and everything else. And you can just kind of do that as much as you want. And then we're just going to put this on. You can either put it flat or you can pop it up on dimensionals. I think I'm just going to put this flat on my card. And there you have it. An easy peasy Christmas card that really just has a lot of personality with those torn edges and that little bit of ink along the sides. So again, very easy to do, very quick to do. One color ink, a little bit of tearing and a little bit of just putting ink on the edges. If you don't have a blending brush, you can use a sponge dauber. You can use a Q-tip. It'll take you a little bit longer, but you can do it. Those are options. So just some things to think about. Now for our second card, I've got here, I told you we're going to do this with the soft pastels because I think that's just a coloring tool that you may have purchased and you may not use, or you may see them in the catalog and you're not quite sure what to do with them. So I've been playing with them more. I've been trying to play with my soft pastels more and figure out a way to use them. So when I saw this stamp set, I thought, oh, this would be a good one to use to color with the soft pastels. So now I'm going to stamp my image rather, in our tuxedo. And I've got here a piece of basic white somewhere. I have my pre-cut pieces. And this is, I think, 3 3/4 by 4 3/4. I probably could go to 3.5 on that, but I can always trim it down if I have to. Again, my stamp is bigger than my stamp pad, so I'm going to take my stamp pad and ink it up. Okay. Now I'm going to stamp this, and I'm going to stamp my sentiment. But remember, I'm not going to stamp my stars yet. And the reason being is I'm going to do that inverse mark because I want to have that little golden glow around them. So let me just, I got to clean this first. I forgot I used pecan pie. Okay, I'm going to stamp Oh Holy Night. Okay. All right, that is it. Now let's get to stamping. Now, a cautionary tale. When you are using the soft pastels, you will definitely need to keep baby wipes very handy. The reason being is once you use one color of pastel, it will get on your fingers. So you need to clean your fingers so it doesn't get on your card. If they do, you can use an eraser like this one. This is the Statler. It's just it's a special like art eraser. These are great for erasing the extra little bits of soft pastel that may get in an area where you don't necessarily want them. And you want some Q-tips because you want to smudge it. So I'm going to open them up. You can see they're very loved. They're a little broken. That's okay. Just because they're broken doesn't mean the color falls out. So I'm going to start with here a little of the, see what I mean? How the chalk is all over my fingers now. A little bit of the Daffodil Delight, and I'm going to color in Mary's hair with a little bit of the Daffodil Delight. Okay, now just don't worry about filling in all of the spots, because when we go back over it with a Q-tip, that will kind of fill in the spots that are still white. Okay, so now I'm going to take my Q-tip and I'm just going to smudge my pastel all over. Okay, so now we've got her hair. Now if you want it darker, you can go back over it and add some more. That's up to you. But again, you're just going to go back over it, and then you're just going to take your Q-tip and smudge it. Now, I recommend having a lot of blowing to blow that pastel dust out of the way. I would recommend having one color, one Q-tip for each color you're going to use, because you don't want to put a different color on it. Then you might blend the colors that you don't necessarily want to blend. Okay, so I'm going to come in here with the blue, the Night of Navy, and I'm going to color in like the baby's blankets. Again, I'm not using a lot of pressure. I'm just kind of using one edge, one tip, and just kind of coloring in that way, because I will smudge this and get that color to blend in where I want it. Okay, so again, I'm going a little bit more, probably less than I would normally if I was using like blends or crayons or something. Again, I'm going to keep constantly washing my hands. Okay, and you see how it lightens up as we kind of smudge it? It makes it a little bit lighter. Okay. All right, now let's do Mary's robe. And this, I'm kind of in the Coastal Cabana. I thought that was a pretty color for Mary. All right, so we're just gonna, again, color in. I'm just sort of not really coloring in all the white areas, but I am kind of coloring in as best I can. You want to be careful. I don't want to color in her hands. But again, if I go a little bit out where I don't want it, I do have the eraser and I can erase what I don't want. All right, let's take another Q-tip. Actually, Q-tip has two sides, so I can use the opposite side to kind of blend in the color on Mary's robes. Okay. And if I feel like I need to add more color somewhere, I can go back and add more color. But I'm thinking this is looking pretty good. Remember, you want some natural variations in it. And as you get the color on the Q-tip, that also helps color a little bit. Now you see I did have a little bit of my Coastal Cabana go there, so I'm just going to erase it. And I got a little bit over here onto Joseph's robe. So I'm just taking my eraser and I'm just kind of going where I just don't want that Coastal Cabana to be. And it takes it off. Mostly. All right. Now we're going to do Joseph with Gorgeous Grape. It was either Gorgeous Grape, Granny Apple Green, or Mossy Meadow. And I'm going to leave the center white. So I'm just going to kind of follow along with these lines here. And you might find that one edge of your chalk works better than another one. And I'm not really sure why that is. But it does. Maybe a real artist would have a better knowledge of why that is. I am just a faux artist. Okay, trying to take a little bit of care going around here. Okay, and again, I'm going to take the opposite end of my Q-tip, the one that was still kind of clean, and just kind of rub that. So you're helping to spread it. You're also helping to erase some of the lines. So it's all good. It's all good. See that? Now you're getting those in there. Again, I've got a little bit, kind of clean my fingers off again. I've got a little bit where I don't want it, so I'm just going to kind of come in there with the eraser and kind of move some of that purple that I didn't want outside the lines. Now, for his hair, that was my biggest challenge because as you can see, none of these colors really work for hair. So at first I just did Poppy Parade thinking, okay, I'll make him a redhead. My daughter told me that doesn't really look good. So I took some Poppy Parade and some Mossy Meadow and just kind of blended them together. To kind of give me a little bit more of the Mossy Meadow. A little bit of a sort of a auburn tinge. So not a complete redhead, not completely green, but definitely maybe a little bit auburn. Okay, this was by far the hardest to do, to try to get this color to sort of be not too offensive, I guess is the word I'm looking for. So we did the best we could, given the tools that we had, and I think it's okay. I mean, I think it's going to be, like I said, a little bit, sometimes a little bit red, maybe a little bit green, a little bit more green in there. And that kind of just seems to tone it down just a bit. Now, you'll notice I was not careful and I did get some dust up here. So I'm going to kind of take my eraser and clean that up. because we're going to put our stars there in a minute. Now, if you want, you can go back and you can do his staff. I'm just going to leave it white because it's a pretty narrow area. I will take that purple out of there, though. Or you could go back and you could just do it in the mossy meadow. And I've got just a little bit. This was much harder today to do it because I'm doing it for the camera. So, of course, it's going to be more difficult than it was when I was doing it just for my practice. Okay, but we got that extra off. Now, we're going to take our Versamark. Oh my, I can't not get ink on here. We're going to take our Versamark and we're going to take our star stamp. Got to clean it off first. All right. And then I'm going to stamp it up here. Okay, and then I'm going to take my Daffodil Delight. Just going to kind of run it over this area. And I'm going to then just kind of smudge it with my finger because I want it to look light and bright and a little glowing. Okay, we got some down here. Okay, so kind of make it look like a circle if you want, like those stars are glowing. And that ink, the pastel dust, will stick to the Versamark ink. Here's what I'm going to do while I get rid of this, because my fingers are just so messed up right now. Okay, then to sort of help this set, I took Wink of Stella and just brushed it over my pastel coloring. And that will help it hopefully not smudge as you work with it. So we're just going to put this on. But that is how you use pastels. I hope that you will, maybe if you have these in your stash, you'll take them out and you'll give them a try. There's a lot you could do with them. If you don't have them, maybe this will be a coloring tool that you'll want to put into your toolbox. So we're just going to do that, and I'll finish this up later, but I just wanted to show you how to use the pastels to color a picture. But I also want to show you the other ways that I did it, and we'll finish this card later. Let me just put these pastels away because they will make a very large mess. Okay. So let's put those away for now and then wash our fingers one more time to get all the pastel chalk dust off. All right. And I'm going to fold up, close up our Versamark. I'm going to fold up our paper to kind of get a little bit of a clean spot. Let me just quickly finish putting this on. We can finish up that card, and then I'll show you the other ways I colored this image. I'm sure you probably know, but for some of you, you might like to learn new coloring techniques. Maybe these will be some tips and tricks for you. All right, that is all I'm going to do. And again, that just helps sets the pastel color. So I've got here our thick basic white. It is our standard 8.5 by 5.5, scored at 4 1/4. I cut a piece of the Modern Christmas DSP to the standard 5 1/4 by 4. And then we are going to put our Mary and Joseph right on top. Now I think I wanted to cut this down to 3 1/2. So let me just see how I can do that. And I'm going to do it like a little bit, 1/8 on each side. just to hopefully make it a little bit more even and not cut off any. There we go. Perfect. Now I will put this on. Right. So we've got that. We're just going to put that there. And that is the second card that we did today. So one was just a standard straight up, let me just use my inks and one color ink, and then we just kind of tore the edges and added a little bit of color using a blending brush. And then this one we colored with our soft pastels. But you could also color different ways. So let me show you. So for this one, I used the pencil, the watercolor pencils, and the blending pen. Now, I didn't want to do another big one, so I just did the little manger. So we're just going to take that. We're going to take from here. We're going to take Pecan Pie and Daffodil Delight. Of course, they're right on the end. So I colored the crib, the manger, in the Pecan Pie. And again, you don't have to worry about getting absolutely every last piece of white covered, because the blender pen will fill in those gaps. We're going to take our blender pen. This has that magic fluid. Now, I always make sure mine is clean. Okay, so I'm just going to take it. I'm going to rub it over my pencil. So this will do two things. It will help smooth out those pencil strokes, those pencil lines, and it will also fill in any white areas that you may have left with your coloring. Okay, so now we've got that colored. So I'm going to come in here. We're going to use our Daffodil Delight. And again, I'm going to color real fast. But straw isn't just yellow, so I am going to kind of overlay just a little tiny bit of that pecan pie. Not a lot, just a little bit, very lightly, just to add a little bit of a shade to it. And then we're going to come back here and go in over it again with our blender pen. And that is how you can do the watercolor pencils. Now this is really quick. If I was really doing this, I definitely would make some time to go back and follow those lines a little bit better. But I think you get the idea. Then the next way was with our Stampin' Write markers. Sorry, not Stampin' Write markers, our blender pens. So again, I stamped my image in Memento. For both of these, it's stamped in Memento. And I'm going to just color. Now this is, because these are alcohol ink markers, you don't have to press very hard. As you can see, my brush tip is still very pointy. And the more you use it, sometimes the brush tip kind of gets a little flatter. It's not as pointy, or if you press too hard. So just a very, very, very light touch when using these markers is definitely the way to go. So with these, less is more. Less pressure actually gives you a little bit better control, and it will help keep your pointy tip, your paintbrush tip, nicer, longer. Okay, again, I'm going to come in here with our Daffodil Delight. We're going to color in that straw. Again, we're going to add some color over that. We're going to add a little bit of that pecan pie color to it. And again, just lightly, like I said, the tip, just like a little butterfly kiss on the paper. Very, very light. You don't have to press hard at all with these to get good coverage. Again, I am no artist, but I'm thinking that's not looking too bad. Just come in again with a little paintbrush, a little bit, little strokes here and there. Maybe color that out, maybe some feathering. Right? Straws all different colors. Okay. And that is with our blender pens. Sorry, not blender pens. That is with our Stampin' Blend markers. So this was watercolor pencil and blender pen. These two were watercolor pencil and blender pen. These two were Stampin Blends, our alcohol-based markers. Then the last way I did it on watercolor paper with ink refills. Now, where is my little sample that I stamped already? I knew this would happen. I knew it. There it is. Okay, so I took our water painters right here, these water painters. They are filled with just plain old H2O. I took a block, just one of our regular blocks, and I added a little pecan pie ink. The blocks are very dirty, like just a dab. You don't need a lot. Now these colors are going to be much richer. And again, if you add more water, they will be lighter. Less water, darker. So depending on how light or dark you want them, more water, less water. More water, lighter, less water, darker. So I'm just going to paint our manger. And for this one, I forgot to mention, I did use Stays On ink. Now, Stays On, this is what you use with watercolor water painters because it doesn't run. But then you need the special cleaner, the Stays On cleaner, to clean your stamps. So that's just a little public service announcement there. Okay, I'm going to add a little bit more water here. Okay, we're going to just continue painting. Now this is a little bit lighter, but I'm thinking the legs are in shadow, so they might be a little bit darker in this part, but I can always come in and grab more ink and make it darker if I want. So again, that's up to you how light or dark you want to make it. If we want to make this a little bit darker, I can come in here and pick some of the paint. It doesn't really, not paint, the ink. It doesn't have a lot of water in it, and I can make it darker. See how it's darker now? Less water on that part of the ink. All right, so then we're going to take a little bit of our Daffodil Delight, put that over here so I know it's a different color. I'm going to do the same thing. We're going to do our straw, but I'm going to clean off my marker, my paintbrush first, get all of that pecan pie off. Okay, that looks clean. Come in here, I'm going to use my, and you see how much different the straight up ink is? It really does look different. Even though it's all Daffodil Delight, it looks much different. And that might have been a little pecan pie that I put there because I wasn't paying attention, which I was going to go back and put on anyway. So it's okay. Okay. So again, the ink refills will give you a much richer color because it's, it's just got more pigment in it. We're going to come back in here with a little pecan pie, kind of add some, tone down that yellow. And that is with the ink refills and the water painters. So right there you can see very big difference in the different mediums. Watercolor pencil blender pens, Stampin Blends, ink refills, and water painters. So that's it for me, folks. I hope you enjoyed this session. If you would, I would be so appreciative if you would hit that subscribe button. Come back on the screen, hit that subscribe button, and follow me on YouTube. I am Stampin' Up with Crafty Klock on Facebook. Make sure you sign up for my email list. I do a free tutorial every week. I give you tips and tricks. So I hope to see you somewhere on the web. That's it for me. Thanks, everybody. Have a great night. Bye.